Kelly, should we get started?
Dang, I've been talking this whole time. I was on mute this whole damn time.
I know, I could hear you through the wall.
So good morning, everybody. I'm going to start over. Thanks for joining. This is the first of two sessions, we think, for training for TFS. Just kind of a bug in your ear. We think we may be able to get through all of the training today, but again, we'll play it by ear. If we do, we're going to host the Q&A on Thursday, and we'll go ahead and delete the meeting for next week. But we'll see how it goes and see how many questions you all have in relation to that. So Jim and Tracy are going to tag team this training for you today. I'm recording the session. It will be placed on the IT project site as well as the TFS defect management Yammer site for those that may have missed it. The intent of this training is, again, train the trainer, as I believe all of you are either the migration leads or the virtual product leads that will be training the VPT teams on using TFS. So I assume that is the audience today, and as the looks of the attendance, it looks like that's who's here. So I want to just get started with kind of a brief introduction on something that I've gotten a lot of questions about lately, and I think this is probably a good audience to make aware. And I thought we were on this page, but again, I've had a lot of questions lately, so I'm going to just clarify. So TFS has a clear link to SAP CRM, which is our service ticket or service request management system that we use to manage the requests and problems that come in from our user base. And that link, and it's not going to be the only link, but the link today is the connection to the GPR. They will eventually both automatically be pulling from the GPR view that IT has set up for us. And that will pull products, it will pull brands, I think, perhaps product line. I can't remember all the fields, most definitely the product areas and sub areas, etc. We are working currently on that link with the IT team. Tracy and I hope to see something by the end of this week for that, at least in QA for us to test. But the understanding is that there's only, moving forward, there will be one list of products, one list of product areas and sub areas, aka keywords, for both TFS, CRM, and a number of other applications will only pull from a view from the GPR. So I want to make sure that we were just all on the same page. It's the entire reason why part of the exercise of migrating with the collaboration with TSG development and certification is to agree upon the keyword list, aka product areas and sub areas before we begin to migrate. So I just want to make sure everybody was on the same page with that. Again, we should have an automatic update tool from the GPR view into TFS very soon. We already have it for CRM. There's a process to submit product area and sub area keyword modifications where you submit a SharePoint link, and Cheryl and I can either enter it into the GPR ourselves. Cheryl or I can enter it into the GPR ourselves. So there's already a process, and I just want to make sure that we're on the same page with what the GPR is giving us, and that we are aligning equally between CRM and TFS. Questions on that at all?
When you do the testing, can you make sure that they don't delete lower level child areas beyond the 2 levels in TFS?
Well, they don't exist in the GPR, so we couldn't.
Yeah, but I'm saying what I'm afraid of happening is, is that you're going to just brute force push exactly those first 2 tiers and wipe out any children that might be there.
No, we'll do a delta. So whatever's there is going to stay.
Okay.
Yeah, we only see 2 hierarchies of keywords in the GPR. So the only items that will get pushed into the GPR are the changes or differences that are already existing.
So you're only pushing one way from TFS into the GPR?
No, from the GPR into TFS.
Yeah, okay. So that's why I'm concerned, because if you're going from the GPR doesn't have those child areas.
But it's not going to make modification for areas that don't exist. But we'll make sure of it. I mean, I'll make a note of it, but it's not going to make any modifications for further product area hierarchies that don't exist in the GPR.
Okay, so even if I had a root level area in TFS that's not in the GPR, it'll stay in TFS, is what you're telling me.
As in what level of the root? If it's a hierarchy, a sub keyword kind of hierarchy, is that what you're referring to?
Well, I'm just trying to understand how they're coding it from the way you're describing it. So it sounds like you were saying that they're only looking at what is in the GPR, and they're only going to push that into TFS. So that would beg the question, if there's something in the root level of TFS that's not in the GPR, are they going to try to delete it or not? Or just
So
leave
give me
it
an
there?
example.
Okay, so I have a root level area in TFS called miscellaneous, which is not in the GPR.
Okay, when
Yeah.
you say root level, is that the highest product area?
Yes, so under the product, under Promisee Enterprise, let's say I had an area called miscellaneous, and it's not in the GPR, and you do your sync. Does it delete miscellaneous in TFS, or does it just leave it there?
So let me ask you, why is it not in the GPR?
I'm just giving you a hypothetical test case.
Okay, because the entire intent of this is we have one keyword list. We're not managing a keyword list in the GPR and a separate one in TFS.
Right.
It should be identical.
It should be, but if somebody comes along in TFS as an admin, forgets to follow procedure, and just adds it directly in TFS, you can get out of sync.
Scott, I think we would remove the capability of having admins add those things directly in TFS.
Yes,
That
we
once
are.
that feed is available, then we would take away that capability
Okay.
so that there would never be an out of sync situation.
Right.
Okay.
And-
You'd have to follow the rules in order to maintain consistency and preserve one list.
Okay, so then all I'm saying is that if your tool is going to perform a delete in TFS in order to ensure there isn't an extraneous area in TFS that is not in the GPR, I'm just saying let's make sure they don't drill down and delete a third level area in TFS.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, Scott. No, I'm sure they will take that into consideration.
Yeah.
They're not going to delete
I think
things.
he thought you mean, I'm sure they will delete it.
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant.
No. It's going to have some intelligence to it where it's going to leave things alone, I believe, and then maybe produce a report for someone else to make a decision on.
Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, Tracy currently does a delta between the GPR and TFS now anyway. So we could certainly use that as part of our tools to ensure that the lower level information doesn't get deleted when we do the push.
Yeah, I'm just raising it as a caution because if it happens, it could cause a lot of headaches.
No, it's a good point, and we've talked about it and the need for it, Scott. So, yeah, I think it's on the list, and we're just going to have to see how it progresses, how we're going to handle that situation. If it's just going to be a review of a report somewhere, or it's actually going to, cause something to happen, like notify somebody that things need to be moved because this doesn't match. We don't know what we're going to do there yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something that we'll be looking at in QA, but we're certainly going to take all of that into consideration.
But the goal is, as Kelly stated, to have one list. Right now, we probably have 15 lists, one in each separate defect management system, one in TSG, one in everybody's head, maybe. So the goal would be, for consistency's sake, for reporting's sake, for metrics' sake, for everything's sake, just one list everywhere.
All right. Any other questions on the GPR and how it relates to TFS and or CRM? Okay. So I think with that said, Jim and Tracy, I'll go ahead and open up the training session to you to begin. Again, we are recording, so it will be posted, and it will be out on the Yammer site by the end of the day today. So, Jim, it's all you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, guys.
Tracy and I are going to bounce back and forth and share our streams out. But right now, I'd like to talk about the IT project site. And I sent that, I IM'd that to everyone. That's a link that has a lot of valuable information, especially what you see on your screen now, which is the workflow involved with how a product backlog item and a defect item moves through TFS. TFS is different than some of our other systems. You can't go right from new to closed. It has to proceed through the state model. So that's something to be aware of. If you are using a system, I believe FlowTrack, you can take it to any status you want. You cannot do that in TFS. It has to proceed through the states. So that's just something I'd like to highlight before we get into, the forms and access. Any questions about the states? I know we didn't review that. We're not going to review that today. We're going to talk about, the web client that you see on your screen now, but something to review maybe for next time or for our question and answer section. If you go to that IT site, you will see the workflow diagram, and you can blow it up like I have on the screen here. And if you have any questions about that, maybe prepare them for our next session. Unless you have questions now. make sure your microphone is unmuted if you're trying to ask a question, please. And then, like I said, we can discuss this during the Q&A section, but let's just move on to the client. So everyone, this is what the TFS 2010 web client looks like. It's got a lot of information on the screen. It's almost like a dashboard screen as opposed to FlawTrack, which takes you right into a defect entry form, or can have a little bit of a dashboard, I believe. So this is what your dashboard looks like in TFS. And the first time you log in, it's going to look like this. It's going to want you to select a product line and a project collection. So the project, I'm in the prototype right now, but our project collection is called product line, and then you would pick your product line, whatever it is, if it's MicroStation or offshore products or project-wise, you would just pick it like that, say OK, and then it takes you into that specific product line. So you can either connect through this way, and then it remembers your last couple up here so you can quickly bounce around. So I'm on the Home tab, and here's where you select your product line. Simple enough? Then it's going to give you some things like what were the last couple things you accessed in this product line, your work items, if there's anything assigned to you, etc., etc. And we're going to walk through everything on this screen. That's what this training is going to be about, so you know what each one of these items does. So that's how you connect to a product line or switch between product lines, this window right here. Any questions on connecting to a product line?
No.
Okay, great. So the next item down here is a search capability. And I'm going to turn that over to Tracy to talk about the different ways to effectively search in TFS.
Okay, and
I mean, you want to share it your screen,
Yep,
Tracy,
yep.
or I could have done it for you if you
No,
want.
I got it. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen. I am in the web client right now, and you can tell I'm in the prototype, but just another thing up here, the URL. This URL right here is the prototype address. If you're in production, it would say tfs.bentley.com. Okay, so to do some searching, a lot of the TSG folks, you guys may be aware of that because of the new functionality, the search tool. And one of the things that it does search is TFS. If you're coming into TFS and you want to do a search, this is where you would do it, and this is the text search area. This search applies only to the product line that you're currently in. So right now I'm in the MicroStation product line. I could switch it to, I'm going to switch it to building. And you need to know which product line you want to be doing your search in. If you want to do it across product lines, you would create a query. But to use this text search tool, you would want to be in a certain product line. This search tool is not case sensitive, so it doesn't matter if you're using caps or not. The default search is going to be, it'll look through the title of every work item in TFS. And TFS considers bugs, product backlog items, tasks. Those things are called work items. So if I'm going to do a search, actually I'm going to go over here, back to MicroStation, sorry. So if I'm going to search for something that has the word crash in it, and this will bring back every item that has crash in the title. And this is the default search. If you want to search a certain field, So we've decided that we're going to search other fields like during the, in case you guys didn't know, when we migrate, we're going to be migrating over from FlawTrack. We're going to be migrating the FlawTrack response notes and history. So you may want to find a bug based on something that is in the response notes section. If you have certain fields, you can express them here. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to, you can type in the label, and the label needs to be surrounded by quotes. So I know that in the MicroStation, in the prototype, I don't have any administrative comments, but I did put some in for building. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to search this field called administrative comments. I'm sorry, administration comments. And because I'm using the label, you surround it by quotes. And there's 3 different operators. There's a colon, which means contains. So this administrative comments field contains the word, what am I going to use here? I'm going to use the word, I'm going to look for ABD and do a search. So in the building analysis design product line, in the administrative comments field, it found ABD. And you can double check that by going over here. Here's the administrative comments field, and there's ABD. When you're doing a search, if you're searching for, there's a couple not quirky things, but if you're doing a search and you want to search for more than one item, you're going to need to fill it all out. So as an example, I'm going to search the history field. I'm going to look for the word graphic.
So Tracy, real quick, you don't have to put history in quotes like you did administration comments?
Because it's not, it's all one word.
Oh, okay.
History. And this is specific for the history field itself. You need to type in the whole word here. You can't just say, if you're looking for graphic design, you would need to say graphic, and of course that would have to be surrounded by quotes. Like this. If you're just looking for the word graphic, you don't need to, you have to spell out the whole word. You can't just do like wildcard searches. I'm going to look for everything that says GRA, and this is specific, one of the quirks for the history field. So, and you can see over here, it's looking for, in this product line, it's looking in the history field for the word graphic. So we'll see. So this was one of the practice migrations that I did when we were testing our tool. So this is the history from FlawTrack for this defect, and in there's the word graphic. So there's 3 operators. That colon means contains. You can use the equal sign if you're looking for something specific. And if you're looking for something that is not included, you would use a dash. So it would be a dash. You can also, one of the other features you can do is you can do a search if something got created or something was changed today. And this is sort of fancy. So it would be if you're looking for this you'd have to put in quotes. Changed date. And it would be equals. So if somebody changed a bug today, Oops. And I got to clear out of here. Back home. And then I didn't make any changes today, but let me see if I can do this. I'll go in here and quick changes bug. I'm sorry, guys. I must be typing something in wrong here. This worked for me last night. That's what I get for trying to be too fancy. But one of the things that we just need to keep in mind is that you're doing your text searches for different items here. So you just need to be able to use the label of the field and you can do your search. And if the label is more than one word, it needs to be in quotes. And the same thing with the value. And this is the search you see when you guys are in the CRM too. The advanced searching will come in and do this kind of thing. For there, it's automatically coded to search the title and the administrative comments fields for stuff. And that's all I have on searching. So I'm going to turn this, unless you guys have more questions. If you guys have any questions?
Hi, Tracy, this is Mike.
Hi.
Can these certain search queries are stored everywhere and be reused later?
No. The queries can be if you're doing a query, but these are just text searches for within this product line. So no, you cannot save this.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Tracy, I was just going to point out in my experience, it seemed like if you run a query first and then do that search, it looks like it searches within the query result.
So, you mean like if I'm running one of these guys, and then I do a text search, it brings back only the stuff from the search, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, I did not know that.
That seemed to be how it was behaving. I was just curious if you agreed or not, but...
No, I actually haven't tried to run a query.
I don't know if it was coincidental or if it was really the case, but it seemed like it was doing that to me.
In the box. Okay. Well, if you run so here I just ran a query, and it brought back all this stuff. I'm assuming since I'm on this screen and I'm doing a search, I'm going to search, and I'm not going to put in a field. I'm just going to say I'm looking for PDF. Well, I didn't find anything. All right, migrated bugs. Let me try crash. Crash is always a good one for Microsoft. All right, so this found for after I ran the query. I'm going to come here, not run a query at all, and type in crash. And it found the same 4. So it doesn't look like I validated what you said.
Well, are those 4 in the migrated queries query?
Okay, so 1381, 88, 90, and 96. 1398, 90. Yeah. Jim, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I mean, Scott, we could probably take this offline. You'd have to almost prepare a blank query and then do the search and see. I mean, we don't.
Okay. Well, it'd be good to know if it
that.
does that.
Okay, so I'm
we can certainly validate that and produce, if that's the case, then it would have to be highlighted as a known
issue.
Behavior.
Okay, Scott, I'm writing that down to research after this.
Okay, thanks.
Does anybody else have any questions on searches? Okay, Jim, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to you for the next item.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. Tracy talked about searching on different fields, and we're going to get to that when we get to the bug form and the product backlog item form. But right now, we're just talking about the interface here. So I just want to go down and, go through some of the things in this left pane. So obviously have favorites. This is going to start remembering things you access a lot, whether it be individual bugs or other things inside TFS. So that'll build up just like this will. This new work item selection allows you to, submit a new bug, a product backlog item, a task, a test case, a sprint. They're also all available on this new menu. So these are some things that I was doing. If you remember from Tracy's screen, she had different items in here. And the same with the queries. Somebody asked if you could save queries. Yes, you can save queries. You can save personal queries for yourself, and you can save team queries for everyone else. But in this left pane, it would remember things you access, more than once. I think it's, after 3 times it'll start showing. I don't know exactly what Microsoft uses to start populating this stuff, but things you access a lot will start showing up in your personal dashboard here. So that covers the whole left pane of the interface so far. Any questions about the left pane of the web client? Okay, so looking at the rest of the dashboard, you can see these tabs. There's a home tab, a work item tab, a source tab, and a build tab. The build and the source tabs you won't have to worry about. You should just be concerned with the home and the work item tabs. These are for managing source code for those systems that will be using TFS for source code management. And Keith Bentley has dictated that all desktop applications will be using Mercurial for source code management. So there won't be a lot of product lines with source in here, but there will be some. And then this build tab is for managing builds. So really, most of us aren't concerned with the source and the build tabs, but our home tab is going to be important, and our work item tab is going to be important. Any questions about what tabs we'll be using? Okay, so if we're under the home tab, you can see there's sections for queries, reports, source control, which you're not going to be caring about, project portal. This is just internet access to the same things you can get on this page. The build, we're not going to be concerned with, and process guidance, that just gives you information about some of the workflows we discussed on the project page. Down here, there's a work item summary, so anything, and you can customize this work item summary to be things that have you listed as, I don't know, the tester, the developer, the approver, the creator. So you could make this work item summary be whatever you like. And it gives you a little summary. How many bugs do I have assigned to me? How many are in this state? How many are in that state? And then you could click on these highlighted numbers and it will take you to that exact information, almost like a query that you have saved. So I'm going to just jump back. So there's lots of little buttons here to take you to information inside TFS. And then here there's another little recently accessed work items that keep track of any bugs or product backlog items that you've been looking at a lot. And it just keeps track of those latest ones.
Hey Jim, just real quick side question. How many does it track right in that screen? Is there a default number of them?
It looks like, okay, Tracy says yes. How many, Tracy?
Oops, sorry about that, guys. I was being muted. That's one of the things you can change in the setting. There's a setting that allows you to change that.
Somewhere under customize?
Yeah, under settings, customize, and we're going to be going through that a little bit later. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so right now the number is set to 20,
Okay.
and you can change that to be higher or lower.
Oh, okay, good.
So let's just be clear. In TFS, things are called work items. And I would think the work items that all of us are going to be concerned with are going to be bugs, product backlog items, maybe tasks. Sprints are for defining iteration lengths. Test cases are for obviously managing test cases in here, which is outside of the scope of our first phase of implementation. And there's a query button for building queries under this new tab. So here's another way. If it's not under your remembered new work items tasks, you can always go to new if you just want to file a bug or a product backlog item from your home screen. I mean, that's pretty much this general overview of this section of the home screen. We're going to get to the tabs, and we're going to do the right-hand side in the upper right later. Any questions about this stuff in the center of your home dashboard? I know we didn't get to the forms yet, but any questions?
Yeah, can you just remind me, product backlog items, is that change requests?
Some teams have designated as a change request. Some teams have designated as a unapproved defect or bug. So I think as the VPT leads, it might be your task to decide what's best for your team or what's best for the entire Bentley organization. Product backlog items are mainly new features.
Okay. Yep.
And some teams believe that CRs in FlowTrack weren't necessarily new features. So they designated them as, they brought them in as a bug with a new feature enhancement required. So it would have to go through an approval process to move it to a backlog item. Other teams might say a CR is a product backlog item. I don't know how each team worked that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're trying to work through that. Hey, I see Chris, it looks like he's maybe on hold there. I was wondering what the MicroStation team did, because I know a lot of the groups are kind of following their lead. So I'm not sure if Chris can comment there.
Yeah, he might be commenting, but we can't hear him. So I believe what he did is he moved all of his items in as bugs with a type of enhancement backlog item needed.
Yeah.
So a CR in the MicroStation world is a bug with a type of enhancement backlog item needed. And you can query on all these fields. We're going to get to this form as we move through. We would just want to go over the web client first. So I believe that's what...
That's what I recall, Jim, it being, which makes sense. It's an enhancement.
And Chris, if you're trying to speak, we still can't hear you. We see some kind of on-hold designation on your phone. I don't know if he's trying to speak or not. But so he would be the one to address what MicroStation is, but there you have a little synopsis of what they've done. Any other questions on the middle of this form? Okay. And so the three items that we are going to talk about these later are a bug. So your bug, it's going to come up with a form that has fields, required fields, not required fields, tabbed items with additional information. If we open a product backlog item, we'll notice that that's similar to a bug with less fields, because some of the fields don't make sense for a product backlog item. And then there's tasks too. Usually tasks are defined in relationship to a product backlog item or a bug, but there's also a separate entry for task. I don't believe that outside of a iteration planning session, anybody would be adding tasks for items. So, but they're just, I think, the three main level of work items that you'll be involved with at TFS that replace some of the other terminology of TR, CR. I don't know what else was in FlowTrack. Does that make sense? So a TR becomes a bug. A CR is a bug with an enhancement item needed type. Some teams might say a CR becomes a product backlog item. Any questions about that? The work item types inside TFS.
No.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to, again, this workflow diagram so that when you create something, it's going to come in as in a new state. And then after new, it has to go to approved, started, ready to build, available for testing, done, and then it can be closed by the owner or the creator. So a lot of times a team might end at done, and that's when they're finished. But you can't go directly from approved to done. You can go to approved to no action to close. You can see some of the arrows here. So I think the different scenarios that you might need to deal with, you have to study this workflow diagram and say, okay, now I understand how to get between states. But the normal workflow is straight down the line. This is something we always wanted in FlowTrack, but we never had. And as I said, take a look at this. Maybe next training session or during the Q&A section, we can spend some more time on it. We're not getting through the outline that I have as quickly as I thought, so it looks like we are going to need the second training session, but I just wanted to give that as a heads up. But please don't let that stop you from stopping me and asking questions as we go. So the states in transition is on that diagram that's on the IT project site. This home tab, right now we're going to talk about, we've discussed some of the different fields, and maybe this one would be a nice place to end. Let's talk about the actual bug work item. So this is what it's going to look like. And if you're familiar with other defect tracking systems like FlowTrack, it has fields that need to be filled out when you want to file an item. And when you do submit it with some of the things here, save, it's going to generate an ID number for that item, just like in FlowTrack. So the items highlighted in yellow, the title, the product line, product, and area, the found in build, and the approver are required fields when you file a new defect. So you have to put a title in, right? Makes sense. Okay, so you can't, if you tried to save this now, it's going to say, hey, these fields cannot be empty. It'll give you a little bit of feedback. So it says, we're at the product line level for MicroStation. So as you can see, the product line, we have all the products here for MicroStation, View. I'm in the prototype, so MicroStation actually has some keywords. So as soon as I go to below the product line level, you see this thing change to yes, thanks. That's the trigger that prevents you from entering a defect or a product backlog item without this defined. TFS doesn't have any controls on area paths, which is what this field is. So we had to put in another control in order to enforce that this was selected. I don't know if anybody wants it. If you want to talk about that, take it offline. We can discuss it. But all that does is, if I go back to top level, product line level, it's not going to let you enter the bug because it's not going to think that It's empty. So anyway, you have to add an approver and a found in build. And this is going to be a drop down that's going to be managed for your product line. And Tracy manages that for you when she brings you into the production system. So it makes sense. You have to fill out all that stuff, and then you can save your defect. And you can see it generates a defect number here, which you can cut and paste into something and send it. So they're the basic fields on here, but there's lots of other fields that you'll need to use when you're trying to designate and categorize something that's happening that's going wrong in one of our products. So down here, there's a product line, project, and iteration. That's for planning purposes. You probably won't need to be concerned about filling that in. A project manager is probably going to use that to schedule when he's going to fix the build. There are some other valuable information, build details that you might want to fill in when you, besides found in build, like if you could determine what was the first effective build number, like let's say you found it in 8/21/2/58, that's when it was reported, but it's really in there since 8/21/02/01. That could be valuable information to a developer in trying to find the fix and actually fix it in a number of builds, and actually notify our users, hey, if you have this build, we made fixes in wherever we have the fixed in build and tested in build information. So I don't know, there's other sections on the form like behavior. So this is where you can describe, the severity of the behavior. There's a drop down with, critical's the highest severity. There's a high, a medium, and a low. And I know that doesn't map into every other system, but we'll need to all agree to map into those severities. Is it a regression? Yes or no? Regression means, has it been newly introduced? I mean, did it work before and now it's not working? There's a list of symptoms that you could pick from that says, what is this thing? Maybe a program crash. How repeatable is it? Is it intermittent? Is it file specific? Has it only happened once? Is it definitely reproducible every time, or unknown? That's valuable information to know when you're trying to diagnose a defect. And then there's a list of types. Could be a data problem, a documentation issue. Like I said, maybe it's an enhancement where you think a backlog item is needed, but it's coming in as a bug. They're just all, if it's a performance issue, standards conformance, if you know, those things could be valuable to a developer. There's an additional severity, which is TSG severity, that hopefully once we all acclimate to the system, we'll all agree that the severity is the severity. But there's a point where TSG can set a different severity than whatever the development or the project manager sets the severity on, just so, if there's a difference in opinion, there's a record of that. Any questions about the description section, the build details section, or the behavior section of the bug form?
Nope.
Okay, great. And like I said, if questions come up in our next training session after you've gotten a chance to look at this in the prototype, feel free to go into the prototype. If you go to the project site that I listed in the IM at the bottom of this message, there's a link to the prototype, and you can go in there and you can file defects, you can create queries without interfering with anybody that's already using TFS in production. So I'm going to move on to some of the other sections in this bug form, and I know we're running out of time, so I'm hoping we'll probably stop with the bug form, and then we'll move on to queries in our next training session. So I know people are going to have lots of questions about queries and reports and the work item tab, but I don't believe we're going to have time to get to that during this training. So let's just finish up with the bug form and make sure we understand what all the fields are being used for and what all the tabs do. So under the assignments section, This is just a free-form field. If you wanted to use this for designating the owner or the requester, if it was somebody external like an important user, you could note that in here. Or if it was a special person in our company like a vice president or somebody that wants this, you could put their name in there. That's a free-form field that'll handle anything. For the approver field, this is something your teams would need to agree on. Who's going to be the approver for most of these items? So this is usually a VPT decision. It says make this person either a TSG lead or a product lead, or it could be multiple people, like for certain products, it's this person or that person. That's a list that your VPT would maintain and broadcast to your team members so that they know when I file a MicroStation bug, the approver's got to be Chris Marks or whoever is designated. There's also fields for developer and tester. They will become required after the state changes to approved. So, and we're going to talk about this. You'll notice that only the available states, the only states available are the logical states in the diagram. So even if you wanted to go from new to closed, you can't do it because you can't select it. But if I select approved here, you'll notice that these two fields now become required. So when somebody comes in and says, yeah, this needs to be fixed, that's when a developer and a tester will be notified that something's coming down the pike here, because they'll be added in the drop-down list. There's also a team field. I mean, this is just an extra field. If you want to designate a team responsible for this defect, you can. You don't have to use all of these fields. All you have to fill in are the minimum required fields to get something into the system. This SR count field, this is going to be automatically populated with the number of service requests that have been associated to this defect number, and that comes around through the back door through a report that comes from the web development team. The SR's just been completed. They're developing the report that's going to feed into this and update the counts and the links. It's going to put a link to the report. Now, let me go to a different product line, and I'll show you what that's going to look like. Where was I testing that? I believe it's in here. Okay, so here's one that has an SR count of 2. Like I said, that will be automatically written in on a periodic basis and updated, and the link to the SR details report will be under the links tab, so you'll just double click that. This isn't in production yet. This is just an example of it working in the prototype. And this is going into the Bentley warehouse, and it's going to give you the details of the service ticket numbers and what was assigned to it. So we have a couple of those that we've tested, and we seem to think that this is going to be the right way to do it. And then that's how you would know the details of your service requests that are associated to this defect. Any questions about assignments, especially that SR count and the link associated with it?
Hey, Jim, you said it was going to be updated, but then only after a certain amount of time. So is that something that has to be ran independently, like every week, and then the numbers update, or is this something that's ran all the time and then the numbers update?
We're still negotiating that with the web development team. So it could be whatever they want to be able to do. Could be every day, could be every minute, could be every week. I don't know. We're still discussing it.
Okay.
What would you like it to be?
Can you get it down to the nanosecond? No, yeah, I mean,
what's practical? Daily?
Yeah, daily would probably be not. I don't think anything more than daily would be needed.
Yeah, I'm sure that's possible. So, right now, this is only going to be specific to SR counts that are associated to a TFS defect number. We'd like it to include the floor track numbers too, but that's an additional requirement that we'll have to code for, but definitely not impossible.
Hey, Jim,
So-
I got a question. Is it possible to subscribe to an RSS feed or anything to, if this TR was to change or be updated?
Yeah, there's notifications, and we're going to touch on them later, how to set up notifications inside this in
Thank you.
TFS. So, okay, so that's the assignment state. We're just going through the form. I don't know. We're running out of time.
Can I just have one quick question? It feels like the state field, are they locked for development colleagues, or can anybody make changes to that?
Right
I think
now,
TSG colleagues wouldn't really want to change the state from new to approved, etc.
TFS has the capability to do things like that by role, but right now we haven't implemented any type of workflow restrictions like that, so anybody could change it. But you would see it in, you would see a history of it in there. Just like in floor track, anybody could change it.
So if somebody mistakenly changed something, it will be in history and could be rectified. If
You
somebody
could,
spotted that and said, hang on, what's happened there?
right, you can see here, I'm scrolling down in the history tab. There's extensive list of what happened, what fields changed, what were their old values.
Yeah.
So somebody could, say, if they ever wanted to do an investigation, they could find out who changed it.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
We haven't, although I did mention that TFS has the capability that every field on this form could be locked down to be only changes made by a single person or a group or whatever you want to define. But we haven't gone that far yet. Maybe after you guys get in there, you'll find a need that says, hey, we only want these groups to be able to change these fields. That could certainly be implemented down the road. I know we've hit the end of our hour here. Do we need to stop? Glenn, what do you think?
Well, I think if you're done going over this form, it probably makes a good breaking point.
Well, let me just spend a couple more seconds on the form, and if we need more on the form at the next session, we can start there. But if everybody's comfortable with, okay, so the status section, there's, that's just going to run you through the different status sections. There's reasons that come up. These come up automatically, and these can help you enhance your search later. So based on the state change, certain reasons that describe why the state change occur will display. There's just yes and no fields for working around, publishing, QA and R approval. This is for some of our products that have Nuclear Regulatory Commission requirements. If this is set to yes, it would automatically publish through select services just like it does now. We're still working on the details of that report, but that's the goal, so that if this is set to yes and some other triggers are set, a user can come in and it can see this defect. This planning session, I don't know if anybody would have use for doing this if you're just using this as a tool and you're not planning a release, but you can put a business value in here, you can assign risk, you can prioritize the backlog items, you can put estimates for effort for development and test, and you can even designate a target release if there's a code name for some release you're going to come in. Mostly for planning, getting things done, making sure things are in releases, making sure you can easily query on release notes. That's mainly what this planning section is for. Down the bottom of the form, so, lots of fields. There's extra tabs for, makes sense, steps to reproduce, free-form text, you can enter things, system description, workaround information, testing notes. That's the first tab. Then there's a found details tab that has, all kinds of other additional buckets for putting information in. Fixed details, same thing. Publish details, again, this is mainly going to be used by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission products like AutoPipe and that AutoPipe product line. Then there's a task list that says, this is usually done for planning, who's going to do what to fix this bug. Over on this side, the right-hand side, and I will be done in 3 more minutes, there's an acceptance criteria. If this is mainly for backlog items, but it could be for bugs, When do I know this is done? You could list items here, say, make sure this does this. That would help guide a developer or a project manager to know it was fixed right. Again, this links section, you can add links, but you could add link to the old FlowTrack TR. Like if I want to double click on that, it'll pop me right into, well, I'm not logged in, but hopefully I got my right password in there. It's going to pop me right into FlowTrack. How about that? That's nice. Attachments, of course, whatever. It'll handle all resource type attachments, JPEGs, DGNs, DWGs, etc. And then we talked a little bit about the history. Now, each one of these tabs we could probably spend a lot of time on. So I would suggest go into the prototype, call up a bug, call up a product backlog item, look through this and development. Yes, there's a side limit for attachments. I believe we have it set at 40 megabytes. Currently set. That's the same as FlowTrack. So it'll reject it if it's over a certain 40 megabytes. If you're putting file sizes that big, I would question how a developer's going to find the actual defect you're talking about. So it's best to narrow it down to focus exactly on the defect that you want fixed and attach a minimum test case. Putting large files in there, I mean, you might not know where to begin, especially if, you're not pointing directly at the error inside the DGN. Anyway, I think this is a good breaking point. Are there any quick questions that anybody would like to get in? Okay, so please look at the forms. I mean, I was just going to talk more about maybe the product backlog item form and some other things, but there are some tools up here that are nice, like creating copy of the work items and send as email and view as reports that, we could probably spend a lot more time on, but we're out of time for today, and we'll pick it up again from here with Tracy talking about queries in our session on Thursday. So just as a preview, we're going to be talking about queries, reports. We can revisit the forms. We're going to talk about the work tab. And we're going to talk about settings. So settings talks about setting up notifications. They're called alerts inside TFS, how to search for specific work item number, areas and iterations, setting up different profiles. That's all coming on Thursday. And please develop a list of questions that you need from us too. So I know everybody has commitments, and we're over our time, so I'll let it go. Tracy, do you have anything that you'd like to say before we leave?
No, Jim, you covered everything, so thank you.
Okay, so we'll see everybody on Thursday for an additional section of this training. Thanks for attending.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.